It's the kids next door.
All you see is you just see the soil. And I think a lot of us, God has given us some amazing ideas, whether that's in terms of our careers, our passions, our businesses. And we stop 2 months in because we can't see anything. And we get nervous and it's like, God, I don't really know what you want me to do. Like, did you really tell me this? Then we start questioning God, like, did you really tell me this? Is this? Even God bless my brain. 2 weeks ago, I was legitimately, thank you, Kendall. I was legitimately about to cancel because I'm like, I only have 15 tickets right now. And I know that I need to pay at least for the event space and I can't do that right now. So you must have been wrong. Like, you must have, maybe you didn't tell me this. Maybe I misheard it. Maybe I jumped the gun a little bit. Maybe you wanted me to do something different. And if I had canceled, I wouldn't have seen all of y'all. And I'm so grateful. But I think a lot of that is how we treat our dreams. God will give us something. If we don't see it, if we don't feel like people are immediately grasping onto the concept that we're putting out a bunch of content on social, and it's like, okay, well, people aren't liking it. If you think about, like, Sid will talk about this in a minute, but Sid literally grew the Baldy Revolution from 0 followers to 50K. But she probably didn't see 50K immediately. That was over a couple of years. So whatever God has put inside of you, I'm really excited for you guys to be here. I would love to hear it. I know that I don't know everybody, but I would really love to just root you guys on. The last part of your gift is actually something that was funny. I was in Dollar Tree and I was trying to figure out, like, what do I give them? And literally, I saw plants that said Morning Glory. Aww. And I'm not gonna crack Sean, I'm gonna spiritual cry, but thinking about kind of what God is doing in my life and in you guys' life. I'm excited to see the morning glory, and it's not gonna happen in a bit. It's not gonna happen overnight. It's not gonna always kind of imagine like in 2 weeks, but I think if you stay at it, if you be persistent, if you keep asking God, God give me a strategy, God give me wisdom, God give me discernment, God align me with your will, I really think you guys are gonna see the morning glory. So you don't have to plant it. There are seeds. If y'all want to plant it, I didn't give y'all soil, but wherever y'all want to put it, a lot of times I would put mine on my desk at work, but a lot of times I started this, our pastor back in Hampton gave us now letters because the sermon was an hour later. Even what you're planting now is really going to manifest later. So I think hopefully you guys just look at these plants as just a sign. I'm super excited, you know, for you guys to tell me in a couple months what happens from here, even if it's 2 years from now, whatever it is. So. And now that I'm finished crying, we're going to start off. We're going to kick it off on the panel. We have an amazing host. Her name is Kendall, Rankin, one of my best friends. Super excited. Y'all clap it over Kendall. Kendall is here. I'm so excited for her. Kendall is actually the founder of the Diamond Campaign, which is an awesome, awesome nonprofit that she started back when she was in college to really uplift young women, to really make sure that they're really seeing themselves the way God sees them. Kendall's gonna be our host. We have some bomb panelists. I'm gonna let them introduce themselves, but y'all are really gonna be blown away by what they have to share. After the panel, there is an agenda there for you. We're gonna have a quick break, maybe a dance party if y'all wanna do it. And then we're gonna have a breakout session. I'm excited for y'all to just kind of interact with each other, learn from each other. We're gonna have some closing remarks, and then I'm gonna let y'all go.
Hey everybody, I am Sydne Barard, designed by Sid on Instagram, and then my other business, The Body Revolution, on Instagram. Just first of all, thank everybody for coming. These type of things are always like a really good experience for me, the ones that I've been to. So I just want to share first off, like, one, we're all still trying to figure it out. Like, don't expect the people who are up here to know everything and like everything figured out. At least for me, because I don't. Like I'm still trying to figure it out. So that's one thing. And be kind to yourself always. You know, I think we'll probably share this as we continue on. But one thing I'm doing this year is to stop critiquing myself so harshly. Ideas, anything that you want to do, just let yourself flourish. Like, you don't have to cut yourself down as soon as you think of something. So super excited to speak with you guys. So I'll pass it on.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Mitchell Phelps. Social media at Mitchell Phelps.
Michael Phelps.
Born and raised small town called Ontario, Ohio. From there, went to the University of Cincinnati. I was a business student. Kendall mentioned I started a small business there. It's actually a branding and personal branding business.
And bringing up the rear, my name is Lesley Chen. I am a proud daughter of a Chinese Jamaican heritage and first generation here in the United States. I currently work at LinkedIn with quite a few of my colleagues here, and I am a financial coach on the side. You can follow me at Commonwealth Coach or at LM Chen Young on Instagram. And I'm really blessed to be here because if you had asked me, Lesley, do you have a social brand even 6 months ago? My answer would be no. I think I'm a living testament to what God can do in a really, really short amount of time and what taking that first leap of faith can do. So to give you a brief overview, if you haven't heard my business before, we do financial coaching and specifically try to empower people to pursue wealth in a holistic manner. And that is really, really hard to do, especially when Instagram and Twitter is full of financial gurus, especially when, to be quite honest, most of the knowledge comes from older, straight white men, and it's just not accessible. And so over the past 2 years as a financial coach, I've reached 350 people in person, and now on Instagram and also on my podcast with Liam, my fearless co-host, we've been able to reach over 1,300 people.
Yay! Come through.
To be here and to answer all of your questions as well as the questions from Kendall.
Yes. Wonderful introductions. They're all amazing people. So from like 16 to 18 through high school, like I was like that sneaker kid, like selling socks kid, and that was like my only identifier. I went to college and I was like, that's like not like who I am, and like people keep putting that on me. And I tried to like really kind of like change my brand in college, but the brand was really like, oh, you're just like a leader on campus, like you're just this leader. Like it was another kind of like siloed identifier that was like placed on me externally. So then after I graduated college, I was like, I'm kind of like done with like allowing the audience to choose my brand for me. Like I want to choose my brand, and similarly, it like came with like me figuring out who like I was. If you go through my Instagram, it's like a story. You're like, oh my gosh, she had long hair. Oh my god. Like I don't archive anything that's like a story, right? It's like, and to my brand, it's like my brand currently is like who is. It's like I was talking to my partner about this. Like, what is my brand, babe? Like what is it? Like it's not like a single like identifier I can place on it anymore. And I'm like very happy about that. Like I talk about business on there, real estate, but I also talk about like anxiety and depression and like things that I just go through and like be open about that like on my Instagram. So like post college has really just been like an authentic self, and that's like the brand. So like when you're thinking about crafting your brand, I like challenge you not to limit yourself and silo yourself. Like, oh, I want to be like a life coach. Oh, I want to only talk about like financial like well-being. Like, talk about yourself and like you will still like be able to like navigate and sell and do what you want to do. Right now too, when Instagram and like social media is so flooded, like authenticity really like comes through. Like everybody's an influencer, everybody's doing hashtag ad. Like people are looking for like authentic people and like genuine people. So like, you putting your, as much as you want, you putting your story out there, I think really
project we're working on right now. We're a side hustle, we're a side venture, but would love to hear your perspective on one, like if you're in corporate, how you can position yourself to be in the best spot, right? So whether it's getting a promotion, whether you're changing functions, like how can you leverage your brand in corporate, whether and how authentic have you been in doing that with like bringing your real self to work, and how does that play or by giving you an advantage as you move up in your career?
Right, great question. I think it's super interesting how we look at brands, and so the way I kind of internalize things, I'm big on kind of structure and structured thinking. And so when I first started learning about brand, I was looking at products that are just on the shelf of like, okay, this is how Oreos looks. And I've seen Oreos change over time from when I was a kid to what it looks like to me now. Here's what a different brand like Nike looks like. What consistencies have they had? What differences have they made over time? And I kind of saw specific frameworks within that. And so one that I kind of stick to is the who, what, how framework. And so you kind of look at who the brand is, how it's going to present itself, and then the what behind that.
Ultimately, for me, it comes down to being creative in like what I do, creative in my thoughts, creative in my problem solving, and I feel like that's something that I can bring across the board, whether that be my own endeavors, whether it be at work, in corporate, whether it be in like friendships and all of that. So just, really find out what's like core to who you are, and like everybody said, just be yourself. Like that's probably the best thing that you could possibly do.
Okay, so 2 things that I want my brand to be. Number 1, I've already shared, doing the most. Basically in every situation, I just kind of do the most. And sometimes it's embarrassing and sometimes it works really well. But I'm glad that that's something I'm beginning to accept about myself, because I think it's something that's accelerating me forward. So that's number 1. Number 2 is actually based on a book I've been reading recently, and a lot of you will have heard this already, but it's The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And I really can't stop recommending this book, okay? Here's why. Because he talks about how what you sell as a business or even as a person is different than actually why people come back to you. And this goes to Kasey's point earlier about being able to sell socks, right? People were coming to her just because of who she was. Like, it wasn't because the socks were so much different than the person next door. And in this book, The E-Myth, it talks about what you sell is different than your commodity. So in my side business, I sell comfort, I sell security, I sell the feeling of matching and aligning your finances to your actual well-being, like actual well-being. And overall, it's under this realm of fulfillment. And I want people to know me as someone who takes in who they are holistically and then helps them get to the person they want to be. Not just the bank account they want, but the person they want to be around that. So on one side, overall personal brand, I do the most. On my professional brands, I'm selling fulfillment. Oh, love that.
Question just around like with social media, protecting your brand, protecting your energy, like how do you go about having to like curate yourself or to be digested and like always having to think about like, the who, what, and how? This is something that I struggle with, like, do I want to be this like hyper conscious and aware all the time? But that's like I do because I want to build it, but like, how do you like kind of go around like balancing just like existing and like posting and then also making sure, like even in the workplace at every movement and then even on social media that every post is like contributing to what you want to portray?
I feel like me and you, that's a great question. Because I feel like me and you talked about that before.
Yeah.
About like, do I become this like brand for myself as a person? Do I like just post, hey, Snapchats all the time? Like, what do I do?
Yeah, that's a good question. You said Georgia?
Yes.
Yeah, great question. I think like when you look at the who, what, and how, The how piece comes in with social media for me. So I think of like, who do I want to be, or who would I want people to perceive me as? How do I want to do that? And I think with social media, like I look at it and I'm like, I really don't post a ton. And it honestly comes down to like, I really don't care to, and I don't think that really has an aspect to my brand that like I really need. So when I look at social media, I'm like, all right, cool, I'm gonna post something random once every 2 months. And it's not gonna be random, it's gonna be really nice with a super corny caption. Just because like that's who I am, and I wanna say, hey, like I'm still out here, whatever, like I'm still alive basically. But I don't post very frequently because I'm not trying to curate a specific brand through social media, and that's just not my how exactly. That's not how I'm gonna get to my why and show people what my brand is. So I think for you, like whether you're posting a lot or whether you're not posting it at all or just saying, hey, I'm still here, I think you can really think of yourself of like, is this that how, the way that I want to have my brand presented? This is an area that I care that my brand is presented well on, and that it's seen frequently on.
Answer too. I think I know something I struggle with too. For one, thank God for a close friends list on Instagram.
Right.
It's probably the most convenient feature now, just because you won't have everybody that you want, who's following you see it. I don't know if you're public or private. That's something to consider as well. My design page is public because I want people to happen upon it. But this, I mean, for me this year, one of my things I want to do is just not care so much about what other people think. I want to care more about what like I think and what I think is important and what I want to put on my page, and not really use like the metrics such as likes or people sharing as a way to confirm or not encourage me to post things. So that's a viewpoint you possibly want to take as well. Just like I think all comes down to being genuine, being who you are yourself, not letting the outside world tint the way that you look at yourself and how you want to put that on social media.
So I think my question is around, so for the people who have like a business dominated outside of work, do you like filter that brand inward? Meaning like, how do you feel about taking certain questions inside of the job? And if you don't filter, like how do you go about that? Like, for example, I know Lesley, you finance and also data science. So like, how does that really better sit, art and stuff here? So just want to hear your thoughts around that.
So, transparently, I'm very blessed to be at a company that is very, very open to employees there doing their own entrepreneurial ventures. So that's a huge caveat, right? Because without that environment, I don't know that I'd be able to do the same things that I currently do at LinkedIn. That being said, though, there are a couple ways that I try to bring that to the forefront, but it is a challenge because I don't want my, current manager or past managers or future managers to think, oh, Lesley's not, 100% on the floor at work. I also don't want to limit myself to thinking about, okay, what are my potential opportunities at LinkedIn? Like, where would I go if I wanted to stay here? How long would I even want to stay here? And there's a certain element of, you want to be able to be authentic, but then when it comes to navigating your career, navigating those intergenerational expectations, okay, how do I not show all my cards so that I can have options available, right? So in that regard, I get involved in a couple ways. Number one is I talk about my side hustle a lot with my peers. So on my team currently, I have one peer who does kind of food blogging, and we collaborate on how to use social media for that. I have another that does travel blogging, and so it's very similar. We can kind of have those conversations, and in terms of bringing your full self to work, like Kasey mentioned earlier, that's something that I can feel like I can anchor on, where that's already another public part of me, and I can talk about what I'm doing and feel like I'm being authentic without having to, talk about what I talked about in my therapist appointment that past week, So that's number one. I think the second one is being really involved in our groups around kind of ethnicity. So for example, our Black Inclusion group, as well as our Entrepreneurs group. So with the Black Inclusion group, I do a lot of work on workshops there, trying to be involved and trying to bring content based on my expertise to the business. And that ends up covering a lot of different grounds. Number one, I'm involved in this, non-work activity. Number two, I'm seen as a leader within my office. And then number three, I can actually work on my content. A huge stretch goal for me was continuing to speak in large settings, so like this. And in a couple weeks, I'll be hosting a workshop on the racial wealth gap at work. I'm terrified because that's a really, really big topic that a lot of people can get really emotional about or low-key be ignorant about, right? So for me, that's an opportunity for me to continue to stretch myself.
Other things maybe are going through at work. If you're having something and you want to get advice from some of your peers, people that may or may not work with you, you just want to kind of start thinking through some things because people who don't work together often create some more ideas. So we're going to do that for the next 25 minutes. After that, I feel like y'all love to dance and enjoy the space, so we're going to take some pictures, do that. So I'm going to put the countdown for 25 minutes. Y'all can go if you want to stay at your table, if you want to, like, after a couple minutes, migrate, whatever you want to do, but just please use this time to, like, really enjoy each other, learn more, talk about your challenges, and go.